impacted, the pandemic, the outbreak of the pandemic, we have seen a lot of sectors which has gone out of businesses. And the major ones are retail, hospitality, travel, which in fact constitutes about more than 50% of the payments ecosystem. So here we have a panel which is going to talk about the impact that the COVID has put on the payments ecosystem. Also, it is going to talk about the paradigm shift, the innovations that is required to and the changes that is required in the payment industry, so that even if such pandemics recur, businesses are able to cope up with this kind of a situation. So let me introduce you to the panelist here. So this is the panelists are from this very innovative fintech called Innoviti Payment Solutions, which is India's leading payment solution provider. It processes over 40,000 crore of payment transactions, which is about 5% of all offline merchant payment transactions in India. So we have with us Mr. Amit Ahuja, who is the Vice President Enterprise Technology at Innoviti. We have Mr. Hemant Taware, is a Chief Business Officer at Innoviti. And we have Pragati Ojha, Associate Vice President Product Marketing at Innoviti. And myself, Priyanka, Pani, I'm a fintech journalist, and I have been tracking this sector for a really long time. So today so let's start off with the first to understand what has been the impact of COVID, what impact it has put on the payment ecosystem. Pragati, can you just tell us a little bit about it?
Priyanka, first of all, thanks for introducing us. The impact of COVID on consumer behavior has been quite severe and quite unprecedented, as we have seen it. I would actually want to break down the impact into two parts. One is the short-term impact, which will actually go down once the market reopens. And the other one is the long-term, the trends which we expect to continue even when the market starts opening. So when I talk about the short-term impacts, right now, when lockdown was not there, we saw that most of the retail shoppings were done on weekends. Most of the transactions actually happened after 7 p.m. So that type of distinction is no more there. Now there is a flat, way in which transactions are happening. There is hardly any difference between the weekdays and the weekends. Transactions are happening almost throughout the day. So these are the type of trends we see that they will shift out once the lockdown open and once the people start going back to their business. These trends will reverse. But there are certain trends which we expect to continue even post this this entire episode. So, for example, as we observe from our transactions, the average ticket size of every shopper has increased by around 69%. So people are shopping less number of times, but they are shopping more when they go to a shop. So that is the first impact that is happening. And again, there is a huge shift towards the digital and contactless solutions. So if we see in the large format retail stores, in tier 2, even in the tier 2 and smaller towns, the number of transactions that were happening on contactless mode have increased by around 50%. And even in the large towns and metros, the transactions have increased to around 200%. So that's a huge shift. And that is something we expect to continue because the customers will continue to keep on using digital payments, contactless solutions. And this trend will also sort of be uplifted, because as the market opens, the other players like the issuing banks and all, they will help customers as well as the merchants to contribute even more to this entire infrastructure of contactless payments. So, everything will add up, and these trends are something we expect to continue. And in this space itself, where are innovations like UPI on bill, these type of innovations will actually help the market.
Right. Okay. So when you talk about the consumer behavior, you quite in a good way you have elaborated how the consumer behavior has shifted to contactless payments. I just wanted to understand, where are these? What do you mean when you say contactless payments? Do you mean just UPI? Do you mean just online transactions, or the card transactions that the touch and go is also included in contactless? But if you talk about that, in fact, the retail stores were shut, and the e-commerce also remained quite disrupted. They were not delivering. So, where was the consumer spending the most?
So, Priyanka, as you know, right now, because of the government restrictions, the food and grocery retail stores and the healthcare, only essentials are functioning right now. And whatever data we have observed, like, 2.5 increase in the contactless, has been on those stores themselves. So basically what I'm comparing is the transactions in those stores previously before the lockdown and post the lockdown.
Right. Okay.
So, this trend, I think it is not very much industry specific. It will be seen, once the other sectors also start opening up, the consumer behavior will sort of replicate itself across the sectors.
Okay.
Any views, Hemant, on this?
Do you want to add, like Hemant or Amit, you guys want to add to what Pragati said?
So I think the pandemic has, by and large, forced everyone to think very hard about their businesses, their processes, the kind of customer experiences they have been delivering so far. But coming to the specific question on what has been happening at this point of time, yes, as Pragati mentioned, for the last 2 months, we are only seeing transactions happening in the healthcare segment, for example, and in the food and grocery segment, for example. There is no movement at all happening in any other segment. And as you rightly said, the e-commerce deliveries also have been quite disrupted for various reasons, because of containment zones and red zones, orange zones, and green zones. A lot of deliveries could not be made in certain zones. But having said that, I think the interesting point is what Pragati brought out. There are customers who are shopping less often, but they're spending a lot more when they're shopping.
Okay.
Okay. Just to add to that, I think the pattern is going to change, and it will change when people would run out of their non-essentials as well. So far we have been in lockdown for almost 60 odd days. But as the time goes on, people would rush towards non-essentials. The so-called non-essentials in our country, like electronics. Huge rush now we can see in the electronic stores. Likewise, I think for clothing as well, or other sectors will pick up.
Right. Also, we are talking about essentials right now. What about utilities? What about school fee payments or college fee payments? Was there any impact there, or that was business as usual?
I think there was a government directive to delay the acceptance of school fee or the college fee payments. But I think with the directive change now that they can accept it without any increase, people have come forward and then done the payments, because essentially the life goes on, right?
Yeah, I think the other thing also is that the utilities were predominantly online in any case. So I don't think there's been an impact on that front.
Yeah.
One interesting point which I thought which should be discussed is this whole working from home has actually opened up a completely new set of category of products. So, when Amit talked about non-essentials in electronics, for example, there is this whole plethora of products now that people want to go and buy immediately. Things like laptops, things like new mobile devices,
Yes.
storage devices, yeah,
Yes.
chargers, and so on and so forth. There are soon going to be a situation where the kids are going to start online school. I believe from June
Right.
first week, schools are reopening in an online model. So therefore, if you have two kids at home, you got to have two laptops. They need to start online classes at home.
Yes.
So I think that whole
Absolutely.
segment is now going to open up. This also happens to be summertime. So in places like North India, for example, where the summer is quite severe, there's an acute need for people to go out and buy products like refrigerators, air conditioners, for example. So there's a latent need for consumers to get out and shop a certain kind of product categories beyond essentials. I think those are the categories that are going to be first, going to explode in the next few weeks once the lockdown ends.
There's another example, the office chairs or the tables to work from. I think that's also picking up.
Yeah. So lockdown has eased, and some stores have opened. So, in fact, I was at Chroma the other day, and there was a good amount of rush there. But the only problem with the whole, system was there were not many checkout centers, so the payment processes were long because again you have to maintain that social distancing, and not many people are actually willing to use cards. So how do you see that thing changing? If will UPI help there? Because if somebody wants to do UPI transaction, then that will elongate the whole process of checkout, right? So whoever wants to take this question.
Sure. I mean, I can take this. I think, yes, you're right. The behavior is changing. I mean, in this unprecedented crisis, in this current COVID scenarios, which calls for huge behavior change in the way the consumer is making payments, right? Technology, of course, obviously plays an important role, helping the organizations come up with some innovative ideas. What the benefit we have in our country is we have instruments like UPI, which of course is or was hugely pushed by the government of India in a big way before COVID as well. And now it has suddenly increased as far as the usage is concerned. I mean, we all are very familiar with the products or PSPs like PhonePe, GPay, Paytm. The same can be used for the UPI payment. And the other option we can use is the contactless cards. The contactless cards are used to, I mean, until recently they were allowed to be used only for transactions below 2K, that is 2000. But now you can use it beyond 2000 with the PIN entry as well.
Yeah. That's both on credit and debit cards, right?
That's right.
Right. So let me come back to, Amit, you. So if you can elaborate a little bit on how the payments technology landscape has changed pre-COVID, and I mean, how is it going to change post-COVID? And if you can break up the market, so how the rural market is going to behave and how differently the urban market is going to behave.
Sure. So I think India has undoubtedly moved mountains in the payment industry. I think there is only one way forward, and that is digital, right? These are the days, there are days I don't even spend a penny from my wallet. And it's only going to grow from here in the COVID and post-COVID era. The government in the recent times, I think, as well as the respective regulators, they have taken a slew of measures to catalyze the digital adoption amongst the Indian masses. Some of these include things like Digital India, Smart India Mission, or Startup India, or of course our PM's favorite, Make in India, or the likes of our enrollment for payment, and I mean UPI, GST, demonetization. I think they're all measures which are one way, I mean, directing towards one way only, which is to make things digital, and the idea is to make the country digital. Simultaneously, the government is increasing the overall transparency and eliminating economic offenses from a system to prevent leakage and non-compliance. I think this is enabling the industry to view digital payments as a resource to unlock, I think, a highly efficient system.
Okay.
Another advantage in doing these digital payments is we get a huge amount of data, payments data, that can be leveraged by the MSMEs to create additional business insights. And that can be used for building the intelligent solutions, which of course can be used to make the informed decisions, increase the productivity, and catalyze the growth. For customers, of course, digital payments are advantages as it directly adds to their overall flexibility without depending on the cash, because especially in the new era where cash is contact payment, and we don't want to do that. To give you a perspective, and I was just looking at some numbers at NPCI. Indians, and this is just from their website, okay? Indians are doing about 1,300 million transactions for UPI in the month of January and February this year. And that's a big number, right? Yeah. And if you look at just the POS transactions, right? I have some numbers from December last year, and that's also very recent, right? Credit card itself, it was 204 million transactions, all banks or issuers combined.
Right.
For debit card, it's almost a double, about 451 million transactions. That's huge. I mean, the country is heading towards a digital revolution, right? And with instruments like UPI, BQR, contactless cards, it's only going to go up north. I mean, we do not understand the value of one instrument I would want to highlight called BQR. I mean, which people still are not aware that you can still do the payment scanning the QR with your credit card or debit card. I mean, people have been thinking that your UPI is, I mean, you need to have UPI attached to the bank account to do the payment. But there is another way to do it, I mean, which is BQR.
Okay. How is that? How does that work?
So, I mean, and you just set up your credit card or the debit card on any PSP or the bank app. I mean, now there is a directive from RBI that all PSPs and the bank applications need to support this particular payment instrument as well.
Okay. But this will be largely for the urban customers, right, who are using credit cards and debit cards, but not useful for. Still, I mean, in the rural, they will still require that QR, that sticker that is put.
You will be surprised the kind of penetration these QR codes are having right now, and people are so used to it, even in the rural areas. And thanks to the huge push towards the digital payments, and because of the clear guideline from the government of avoiding the contacts, right?
Yeah.
In the rural areas as well. I mean, we are yet to see the actual numbers, but we definitely see the paradigm shift.
Okay.
Hemant, do you have any around rural if you want to add?
Sorry, was that for me?
One thing actually I wanted to add is, getting these payments, getting the rural population used to digital payments has also happened somewhat due to regulations.
Yeah.
So with FASTag and all, people are becoming more and more comfortable with the digital mode of payments. And once they have started using it, it's easy for them to sort of adopt it for other modes of payments also. So that's what that has been happening. While it started with more of an urban-centric population, as and when it is getting to utilities, even the rural population is picking it up. So as you correctly said, the credit card penetration might be less in the rural India, but things like UPI and QR, they are very well adopting to that.
Okay, so we are seeing a good amount of adoption of QR in the rural India, right?
And the fact like the schemes from the central government, right? Like Jan Dhan or likes of that. I mean, everyone was provided Aadhaar linked bank account number now, which makes things real easy.
So you're talking about the AEPS payments, right?
Right.
Are you adding something or?
No, I'm not.
So I just want to understand one simple thing. If you can give us a breakup, or is it possible? I don't know. A breakup of what kind of what percentage of payments, like breakup of the payments, like how much of the payment processing is done comes from UPI, comes from QR, credit card for Innoviti. Is it possible?
Pragati, you want to take that?
No, Priyanka wouldn't have the data handy right now.
Okay. But in a broadly, which would be the largest segment?
So right now, of course, most of even if you see the payments at retailers broadly, right now cash constitutes a good amount of payments for the retailers.
Okay.
Right. So still, say at a minimum, 40 to 60% is done by cash. In rest of it, say I would at a ballpark stage say another 30% by cards and rest by other means. So still, cash and cards are not going anywhere. While the contribution of UPI is definitely increasing, people will continue to use the existing modes of payments, definitely.
But any data that you've captured during the lockdown, has the cash transaction increased, decreased, or what has been the change there?
So during lockdown, as I said, as I earlier also gave the numbers on the shifting towards from contact to contactless is something we have seen. In terms of cash, I don't have any data.
So, yeah, Priyanka, there has been a significant movement on that front. There's a significant change from cash to digital payments across all the markets. That's one thing which is a very clear indicator of what is happening. Second thing, coming to your previous question on digital, I think the Innoviti has a very large presence in the offline market, the brick and mortar stores, and I must tell you that when you talk about digital payments in that space, it still predominantly is about credit card and debit card transactions. UPI is still a very, very small and a very negligible, has a very negligible share in the digital payment space, in the offline space. UPI has a very large presence in the online space, but in the offline space, it is still a long way to go.
Okay. Would you be able to give those numbers, like the percentage of what percentage UPI would be?
But UPI would be single digit at this point of time.
This point in time, single digit. Okay. Or would be less than 1% or just about 1%?
I don't have exact numbers in front of me right away, but it would be single digit, not in decimals certainly, but in single digits.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. So clearly, but that is surely one segment which is growing. I mean, Amit also gave some stats from NPCI that the kind of volume that happens on, transaction happens on UPI, that's definitely going to grow, and maybe more innovations will come after, NPCI, they have launched P2M, UPI transactions. So maybe that will, if that picks up, then it surely has a long way to go, right? The UPI.
Yeah.
Amit, the next question to Amit again is on UPI. How does the UPI at Bill work? And if you can explain to our audience. And before that, I would like to tell our audience to, click on the like and share button. And if you have any, questions also, you can. Yeah.
Right. So, okay. So now we are, I think, living in an environment where there's a big question mark on, for the customer specifically, who wants to pay at the time of delivery, right? They are not sure if they should be booking a prepaid order. Problem is that not every customer wants to do that. For merchants, they're also not comfortable delivering the goods without the payment confirmation, especially in this payment crunch situation. And of course, the retailers, they don't want to increase the cost of collecting money or the payments. So what we did, we thought to make life easy for all parties here. What we built is a solution that enables retailer to print a QR code directly on the invoice for collecting the payment for that particular invoice. The retailer today wants an option to give to the user to pay using one of the most common way of payment, and something which is easier for or getting popular by the day, or is a contactless way. So that when the whole COVID situation started, a few of our retailers approached us to ask for a solution like that, and we took to the whiteboard and thought that we have the technology to build the same. So what we built is a terminal-less solution which does not involve any card swipe or any contact with the delivery person. The receipt is essentially displayed by the delivery person, which has a QR on it, and then that QR can be used to make a UPI payment. And what we do as an added advantage, we have built a merged QR, which means I can pay it using Bharat QR, a feature on my bank or PSP app as well, which means I can pay essentially using my credit card, debit card, which is sitting on the back of Bharat QR instrument of payment, and then essentially make the payment.
Okay. So you said the QR should come printed in the invoice itself.
That's right.
That's the innovation that Innoviti has come up with.
Correct. So I mean, the difference what Innoviti makes here is in today's time, for example, right? For payments, customer ask for UPI option, right? For the quick payments. I mean, you probably know what I'm talking about. I mean, when you're getting the deliveries, the retailer typically sends out a static QR code or share the QR associated with his or her preferred PSP, which essentially becomes a big issue for them, as we heard from a lot of retailers that it's a nightmare for them when it comes to reconciliation. Now they have to essentially tally every single day all the payments that are coming for that particular instrument or multiple instruments. So what Innoviti did is we essentially removed this dependency.
Okay.
Merchant calls Innoviti service for this QR generation, right? We essentially generate this transaction ID, which is used for the reconciliation, and the same is shared with the NPCI and the bank. So they don't have to build a separate system to reconcile. Essentially, they have one system of record, and all the data is packed in one piece.
And how effective it is for the merchants how cost effective it is for the merchants?
They didn't have to change any bit of it. Essentially, I mean, for our existing customers, for them, it's just about making an API call, which we have newly created, and setting it up to generate the QR, which essentially contains the payment amount and the invoice number.
Okay.
That's about it.
Right. And this innovation was you came up with this innovation after the lockdown, the post COVID, or it's a new.
It was a product which was in a shelf, but post lockdown it certainly gained the momentum, right?
Okay.
It's, merchants or the retailers, they saw the value add and were quick enough to grab the opportunity.
And when you were already ideating on on this particular product, how long before? I mean, when was it? Like when were you
So
trying to?
Priyanka, I would actually want to see what happens is in cases such as lockdown. I mean, after this, uh, retailers also recognize that consumers would want to deal with them on various platforms. So
Okay.
there were many merchants who were primarily offline and would want to go at an omni-channel interactions with their customers, right? So that is need identified by us as well as by our customers, that because of this situation customers would not want to go to public spaces a lot more. They would want to go for more contactless solutions. So because of this we sort of prioritize this need which was already existing to to have a contactless, secure, easy mode of payment. But this entire situation basically sort of got it to the forefront of our innovation stack that we have.
Okay.
So that
And
was the basically thinking way behind it.
right. And this has definitely picked up, right?
Yes. So one thing that
Particular
it gives to the merchant, Priyanka, is the asset lightedness of the solution. So basically, merchants don't have to do anything. Their business goes on as usual. And for the delivery person, it is extremely easy because, there is no scope of manual error. There's no scope of, him carrying the cash and, giving it back, or for the customer also having that anxiety that, I am dealing with a contact and, the kind of person I'm dealing with. So
Right.
all those anxieties are removed.
Okay.
So it's
And
very easy to do and very smooth transition for the merchants as well as customers.
And which segment has seen the maximum adoption? Is it the online retail or even offline?
Right now, food deliveries, because those are the segments which are working now. So
Right.
they have quickly picked it up and we are seeing very good results.
But I think this has potential for every retail segment, right?
Yeah.
This is, I mean, now with the deliveries opened up for non-essential items as well, why wouldn't I have the QR on the invoice itself? You don't need to invest on sending a terminal per se.
Right.
I think this use case of the QR on the invoice is something which we developed for a food and beverage, a QSR chain, and that's where I think the applicability is the highest. Somebody who's going and delivering food that is ordered with an invoice which has got a QR on the invoice.
Right.
completely touchless payment experience.
But what is the potential when the lockdown, I mean, completely eased and the malls open up and the entire retail segment opens up? Do you see a potential of this kind of product at a retail store, say, for example, a Chroma or a big retail store?
Absolutely. I think the same concept is already, I mean, in a way, there for our current products as well, which was, when the invoice is generated, right? We today as well on our terminal itself show the merged QR. So you already have that mode of payment or an option to pay using any of the PSP or the banking app.
Okay, but there will be more push for this product post, lockdown.
That's right.
That's what you were expecting, right?
I don't think things are going to change overnight, Priyanka.
Okay.
I don't think once the lockdown ends, there's going to be this huge rush of people getting out of their houses and flocking into malls and stores, and therefore I think this whole uh, dependence on getting things delivered home, and therefore from a retailer's perspective, a merchant's perspective, a multi-channel kind of a delivery model or fulfillment model is something which is going to be here and here for long, I guess. And that's one paradigm shift that's going to happen on a permanent basis. Is the sense that we have.
Okay. Okay. So Hemant, my next question is to you: that what all problems does it solve for merchant and consumer? I think this is the UPI at bill.
So I think
I mean, you have covered most of it
yeah.
during the discussion, but if you can just point out certain key problems that can be solved.
So I think, as you rightly said, I think between Amit and Pragati, most of it has got covered. But just to take a step back, from a payment perspective, today what we realize is the customer doesn't want to touch a terminal at all. Yeah, so he prefers to use options like tap and go, which is a contactless payment option, or he prefers a scan and pay, using a UPI, for example. Customers today are very happy with getting a e-invoice and a e-charge slip, instead of a paper invoice on a paper charge slip. I think customers feel very safe interacting with merchants who offer such payment solutions. There are merchants who we work with very closely, and one of them who I know has decided to open their stores with only digital payments being accepted, no cash at all, and a complete touchless payment solution to address this kind of customer apprehensions. So that's one paradigm shift that's happening from a merchant standpoint in terms of how they want to treat the customer experience going forward from a payment point of view. There are payments, as Amit said, there are customers, as Amit said, for example, who prefer a POD. So I think there's going to be this new term that's going to get coined, payment on delivery. So I think cash on delivery will be replaced by POD.
I think payment on deliveries was still there, but I think it's going to take.
But I guess cash was the predominant.
Get a major boost after this.
The cash was a predominant way of settling a payment on delivery. Today, I think the option is going to move from cash to non-cash. But how does one do it, without having a payment terminal? How does one do a transaction outside the store in the customer's house and yet have a fully reconciled invoice, as Amit said, on the merchant's billing software? So the solution of the QR on the invoice solves exactly that problem for both the customer and the merchant. The customer benefits because he doesn't pay in advance. He doesn't have to exchange currency notes, and he gets a complete touchless payment solution at his home. Yeah, the merchant also finds it easy because he doesn't have to invest in resources to sit and reconcile those invoices manually in his stores, because he has fully reconciled invoices irrespective of where the transaction took place. And second is he doesn't have to, as Pragati said, doesn't have to deploy more terminals and incur more cost. I think these are some of the problems that these innovations tend to solve for both the merchant and the customer.
Right.
Priyanka, are you still there?
I think there's some issue.
I think I lost you, Hemant. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Priyanka, we can hear you.
Some internet issues.
It's a little broken up, but we can hear you now. Sorry, I think we lost you.
I think she's trying to reconnect.
Reconnect, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Priyanka, we can see you. You are on mute, I think.
You're on mute.
Can you hear me? Sorry, I think there's some issues.
We can hear you.
Hemant is not there. Is Hemant there?
Yes, I'm very much here.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think I lost you at the POD.
Oh, that was long back. So do you want me to repeat it?
Yeah, slightly. I mean,
So I was saying that the customers actually
you were saying that a lot of payments will happen.
That's right. So I again lost you, but I think what you're trying to ask me is what really happens on transactions that happen at home. I was talking about POD as a prevalent concept that will emerge now, and from a merchant standpoint, it's quite complicated because how do you do it without carrying a payment terminal? It's quite an unwieldy thing to carry around.
Yeah.
How does one do it outside the store premises in the customer's house and yet have a fully reconciled invoice, for example, on the merchant's billing software? So the solution I was talking that Amit talked about of QR on the invoice solves precisely that problem for both the merchant and the customer. And the customer benefits fundamentally because he doesn't need to pay in advance. He doesn't have to exchange currency notes, which is what he's fussed about, and he gets a complete touchless payment experience sitting at home. The merchant is benefiting.
So does this also mean?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So does this also mean that the dependency on POS machines will go away?
So for delivery, Priyanka, the solution has to be asset light, right?
Yeah.
So while in these stores, it makes sense to have the option of paying only by card. For a delivery situation, you really can't have that sort of solution going behind it. So definitely, that has been our thinking around getting this set up.
And it's a matter of time, right? I mean, till the time we are with Mr. Corona, I think things are going to be like that.
Right. Okay. Also, am I audible to everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. So I also wanted to understand this QR on the invoice. That's Innoviti's innovation. Is it very India specific, or are there such products available globally? And if not, are you also looking at expanding to the global markets with this particular product?
See, I'll take that. I think the platform what we are riding on is very, very Indian specific, which is the UPI, right? And the QR. The protocols we are following is as per NPCI guidelines. So, I mean, to answer that question, yes, it is India specific. But Are all other countries doing it? Yes, there are other countries who I have seen are using static code.
Okay.
Not sure if there are organizations who are working on integrated mode as well, which is the dynamic QR on the for that particular invoice.
Okay. Also, I want to be clear, and so that the audience is also clear, because we had some disturbance in between on the payment on delivery that Hemant was talking about. So in that scenario, the delivery boy doesn't have to carry a POS machine. He can just carry his mobile phone, and the customer also can use the mobile phone, and the payment is done, right? So there is no, it's easy and very seamless, right?
Right. So it is either the mobile phone, or you can carry your the invoice, the printed invoice. I mean, the QR gets printed on the invoice,
Okay.
and at the time of delivery, of course, he would.
Okay.
There's also a possibility, Priyanka, where a customer could place if a retailer wants to only service prepaid orders
So
and not
every box, every delivery box will come with an invoice.
That's right.
Right. So every product will come with a invoice on a QR printed on it, and the customer just have to scan it. So that's so easy, right? It becomes really easy. Great. My next question is to Hemant. So Hemant, you have already answered that. Sorry. To Pragati, how does the availability of asset-light solutions manifest in changes of buying choices?
So, Priyanka, as we were discussing, right, customers are, expected to avoid going to public places, avoid standing on the queues. So ultimately, they will shift towards the retailers who are providing them engagement over multiple channels, right? So this may actually lead to a loyalty shock to the retailers who are present only in one mode, because ultimately this is the need of the customers, and they'll shift to others who are
Yeah.
meeting these needs. And that's how their buying choices will be impacted on the basis of which retailers are able to meet this new need of safety and hygiene by the customers. So, for example, as a retailer, if I don't have the option of, say, a customer calling me and getting stuff delivered at home, then there's a chance that, a customer will move to another retailer which has this option available. Because now it's not only
Yes.
about convenience, it has, gone beyond convenience to even health and safety. And that is where
Right.
availability of such solutions by the retailers become very, very important from a customer's point of view, because he doesn't think it as a good to have solution, but more as a must have solution.
Right. So if we are clear, then customers will not go after discounts or cashbacks, but will, prefer taking orders or buying from retailers who have the highest safety and hygiene standards, right?
Correct. So
Right.
one thing is safety and hygiene, definitely. Other thing is, as we were earlier discussing, right, the number of times the customers are shopping is reducing, and the the billing amount is
Yeah.
increasing. So
Okay.
again, it is very important for the retailers to opt for the solutions which are secure and have good performance. Because you understand, right, a customer who was transacting, say, 5 times a month has gone down to 2 times a month. So if a
Right.
single time, he faces a bad experience, his entire perception about the retailer changes. So both the things become very, very important. Having good solutions for the
Right.
customers, and having those solutions perform well.
Okay. And these are some use cases, I mean, some examples that you have seen during this last 2 months, right?
Which examples?
The
This
other examples, like
customer billing value going up.
customer buying
Yes.
preferences. Okay.
That has
And
been
this is definitely going
mentioned.
to stay even after even after the lockdown. So even after the lockdown, do you think the volume, the number of times is going to remain the same? So volumes will decrease and value will increase. What will happen?
So it's very difficult to say exactly what will
Transaction
happen because
volumes,
still,
vis-a-vis the value of transactions.
Sorry, Priyanka, I lost you there.
So I was asking, do we see decrease in volume of transactions and increase in value of transactions post lockdown? How is it going to change?
So it's actually very difficult to say right now, Priyanka, with almost 40% of economy still in the red zone. But that's what we expect it to be. So I was reading through a survey by E&Y, and they also find out that around 50% of the consumers expect their shopping behavior to change post lockdown. They will prefer more digital solutions, more contactless solutions. They don't want to sort of interact with people at regular frequency. So that is something that is there to stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're also running short of time. I think we just left with another 8 to 9 minutes. So quickly, I will come back to Hemant on, how are the solutions better than providing terminals? Can you talk a little quickly about that? And then maybe we can come back to Amit also quickly on the strategies. Hemant,
mute.
Hemant is on mute.
Sorry about that. So I think we've covered it in great detail. The solutions that we're talking about clearly deliver a certain experience that is not just desirable anymore, but I think it's almost mandatory in today's context. So a complete touchless digital payment experience is something that every customer wants today. And a hassle-free, reliable and a flexible payment solution which allows the merchant to integrate all payment types and address every customer segment's requirement is what every merchant wants today. So I think we are going beyond just that phase where deploying a dumb terminal at the store was solving a transactional relationship. I think we're going into a phase where customer experiences around payments will evolve dramatically, and these solutions are, I think, a step towards that.
Yeah, just to what Hemant just said, I think the value add because of the integrated systems which we bring in is the reconciliation, and from the transaction to the settlement part. I think for that the merchants believe it's a seamless solution because they don't have to look at the separate set of instruments for the payments coming in.
Right. Also, Hemant, can you talk a little bit about the change in business strategies for the merchants?
Okay, actually, over the last 2 months since this lockdown started, I think I and our team, we would have spoken to close to about 30 to 40 merchants across different verticals. Three things that stood out for me very clearly. One, there will be some obvious changes in the business strategies specific to the back end and the front end operations of most retailers. One, there's a very clear shift that we saw towards an online model of fulfillment, or let me call it a multi-channel model of fulfillment, with a very strong focus on home delivery and payment on delivery. There's a very clear shift from cash to non-cash payment acceptance, and that's driving even more digital payment acceptance going forward. I am also aware of some of the cooperatives and producers who are actively engaging in developing a farm to plate kind of a delivery model by eliminating everybody in between, all the middlemen in between, especially in categories like fresh produce, for example. So the entire sourcing models could change a little bit in some categories. The second thing which came out very strongly was there is a certain openness amongst merchants and retailers to partner with non-competing merchants who are serving the same set of customers. So from a marketing standpoint, from a collaboration standpoint, to leverage from each other's customers and footfall. That's one thing which came out very strongly. So collaborative marketing and working closely with each other to get the maximum buck for the marketing buck, bang for the marketing buck, I think is the second thing which came out very strongly. And the last thing which was very obvious was the fact that I think most retailers want to now conserve cash, and hence physical expansion of their footprint, I think, could take a backseat, and therefore deeper engagement with customers in their catchment and fulfilling the needs of those customers to maximize opportunity, I think is a third major change I would see from a strategy perspective for most merchants.
Right. Also, we have some questions from the audience. One has asked, how is this QR solution going to be different from the solution that you have launched?
I think it's in line with what I've already covered. I mean, the fact that the static QR does not let you reconcile, and that this system solves the end-to-end, because we have a handle to the transaction and the link to the invoice in one go. So that's also that's the difference we bring in.
The static QR also is prone to more errors, manual errors, because you're entering the amount manually. So there's a chance of manual errors there.
Right, right. Okay. Another question that we have: can we enable contactless payment UPI Innoviti's ICMP terminals? You can just answer it with yes or no. That's also going.
Well, I'll do that as a yes for the newer terminals. ICMP has been in market for quite a bit, and contactless is a new thing. So some of the newer versions of ICMP which are coming in comes with that feature. UPI, for UPI, we are already doing it with certain merchants, wherein, of course, we cannot show on ICMP a QR code. So what we have done is we have integrated with something known as a mobile POS, wherein we can show the QR code on the mobile POS, and customer can scan and pay from there.
So you've already mentioned that payment transactions below 2,000, above 2,000, it's possible through contactless. That you have already cleared. And how do you convince consumers to pay UPI after losing 1-2% of revenue on that's high on commission? So you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Hemant, you want to?
Yeah, sure. So I think as Amit said, UPI is already one of the fastest growing digital payment products in the world. There are I think over 100 million customers already who are using it in India. Yes, the adoption in the offline space has been little slow, but I think it's purely a function of how the retailers have adopted it. In my view, all that they need to do is to do two things. One is activate UPI as a payment option immediately, provide as many options as possible. Like Amit said, on our platform, a customer can pay through any UPI app, be it Google Pay or a Paytm or a Phone Pay or a Bheem or any banking app for that matter, through a single dynamic QR code. The second thing that you need to do is, I think, promote it aggressively within their stores with the help of POSM material, train your cashiers to guide customers. I think it may be worthwhile investing in putting a staff at the cash counters to do so. Customers who are using debit cards to pay anyway are the easiest to switch to UPI in my opinion. Touchless experiences, anyways, a big scoring point in this environment. So I don't think it's an issue of customers' adoption. It's about merchants adopting and adapting.
Right. So we are running short of time. Just 1 minute left, and you were a wonderful. This was a very wonderful panel that we had, and a lot of new learnings on how the payment ecosystem is going to change. Definitely the way forward is online, and we see the dependency on cash decreasing by day, COVID or no COVID, lockdown or, after lockdown. So, and the innovative solutions that Innoviti has will definitely help the merchants. So thank you so much, Hemant, Amit, and Pragati. For our
Thanks.
audience.
Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. And for the audience, if you can, quickly share the link, the YouTube link that you have, that you're seeing, and share it. And please like and share RAI's website. This is signing off. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.